Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Persuaded Podcast. I'm your host, Ramon. Today I have a special guest, my friend Mike. How's it going, Mike?
All right, how you doing, Ramon?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, the important about this podcast is to bring forth testimonies of people and their experiences with the living God. Because in the world that we live in today, everybody serves God either by blind faith, not having that experience, but we have an experience that the devil can't take away from us, right?
Yes, sir.
So my question here is to ask you questions, my friend. To ask you questions about how'd you get into God? You know, at the age
Yeah.
that you are now, and what got you started, man?
Um, my grandmother and my mother. Actually, I was just going through some things regarding my dad, and it was eating me up mentally. I couldn't think and stuff like that. Like it was really distracting me from everything. Like from the morning to the night, I would get migraines and everything, and they ended up telling me to pray about it, and so I just started praying. I had to ask them how to pray. You know what I mean? Because I didn't. But I started praying and reading, and once I was praying, maybe a week, and I can't remember how long it really took, but I started to have that peace, and I wasn't stressing or thinking about them or worried about it, and that's when I was like, I told myself like, man, this prayer works. Like God is real, and so I just started trying more stuff like praying about stuff and reading and just trying to figure out how to be, and that's where it started from. It's really
How old were you when you started praying?
I was about 13,
That young?
yeah, somewhere around there, 12, 13.
Now, did you say something about that you were actually in a closet praying?
Yeah, man, I was reading a book and it said something about go in your closet and pray, and that's what I was doing. I would go in my closet and I would pray and just talk to God, and I think my uncle, somebody caught me in there one time, like, and they're like, "Boy, what you doing?" And it's like the Bible said to go in your closet and pray. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm doing. And they was laughing, and I remember my uncle saying, "Well, it say go in your closet and pray." And but yeah, I was praying in my closet a lot. And, it's weird because I got a lot of growth doing that, but I noticed once I started messing up and really not going down that path, it seemed scary to be in the closet and pray. Like I
Mm,
felt like I was looking over my shoulder. You know what I mean? But when I was doing the right thing and praying and really focused on it, like it was peaceful. You know?
that's good. Wow, at 13. Now, life happened. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you basically you did what every young man does without a father in his life is ran the streets.
Yeah.
You know, you ran the streets, got into some mess.
Mm-hmm. I was smoking, drinking, hustling, and chasing girls, man. And I was just a mess.
And God was not even a thought.
Nah, he wasn't. Sneaking out, mom crying, looking for me. And I wasn't even thinking about God. I was just,
Were you the only boy in the family?
I was the oldest boy. I got an older sister and then a younger sister, younger brother, another younger sister.
Wow.
So
So life life
it was,
getting into some mess. But what got you to the point to where you had to stop looking over your shoulder and then run into God? How did you run into God in a later date?
man, I was praying for, like, I never had a church, or a church family. And for years, I was praying, like, man, God, I want to find a church I can go to. Like, I need somebody to talk to. I was always praying for somebody to talk to. Years later, um, I ended up meeting Brother Perez, Humberto. Um, he came to my job and was working at my job, and I'm standing there. I was actually praying at the moment, putting helmets up, and I think I was actually praying about him, man. I was asking God about him or something, and as soon as I stopped praying, he was like, "You believe in God?" I was like, "Man, I just got done praying." You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
he was like, "Where?" He started talking to me about the church and coming to church, and a couple of years went by. I kept in contact with him, and but I didn't come. I never came. And then I was at work again, crying, and I just had these feelings in me, man, and it was just I was bothered. I didn't have nobody to talk to. Every time I needed somebody to talk to, though, it would seem like he would contact me. You know what I'm saying? And I think I started to realize God sent him for me to talk to, and the church was the home that I was asking for. And finally, I ended up coming. He like, you know what I'm saying, man, you just come to church? And I was like, all right, I'm going to come. And I came, I met you and Pastor Blaylock, and I can't even explain the feeling. It was just, it felt good, like it felt right, like God was leading me there. Like, and I was never like, you know, always worried about what people thinking. So acting out, like standing up, shouting like, yeah, and clapping and praying. Mm-hmm. It didn't bother me to do that. Like, and I just felt God on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was easy for me to do once I got there. And I didn't think about it. Like, it was just second nature. Just
So it felt right doing it.
Yeah, because I mean, he was talking. It just felt like he was talking right to me every Sunday. Like, and it just clicked. You know.
I remember when you came in there. I mean, you had this look on your face, like, you know, I'm surrounded. Now, excuse how I say this. I'm surrounded by a bunch of white people here. Am I right?
Yeah. That because I was thinking that because you know I'm a black man and I'm raised around a lot of racism. I done been called names and stuff like that, and you grow up being cautious and you're taught to be that way. You know what I mean? So
I feel you.
That just made it more serious for me because I was there surrounded by a lot of white people and some Puerto Ricans. But I grew up with the Puerto Ricans, but
right.
It was God just had a hold of me. Like I knew it was God. Like, so it didn't stop me. Like, it just was right. It felt right. You know what I mean?
You know, when I say I feel you, you know, someone out there in the land would be like, well, what do you mean? You don't understand what he's going through. You're a white guy. Well, let me tell you, being Puerto Rican, white skin, red hair, and green eyes, my own people judge me. They picked on me. So when I say I feel you, I know what you're coming from. Because when you have your own people saying you ain't Puerto Rican, you know, somebody snuck in your mama's house and, you know, your daddy ain't your daddy. I understand that. And I also understand being surrounded by people you don't know. Because when I first came to a church, I was invited by an old lady. And she's like, you know, you need to come and check it out, you know. It's a small little church. And being raised Catholic, I was like, yeah, I'll come by. You know, I'm doing my thing, you know. My girlfriend at the time was pregnant with my firstborn, and I tried to figure out what to do with my life. So, you know, married her in the courthouse because I needed to do the right thing on my son's behalf as well. And then all of a sudden got invited to this church, and being raised in the Catholic church, you don't see women preaching. So there was this, you know, Sister Patterson, the pastor's wife, preaching. And bro, she was preaching directly to me. I got so uncomfortable, but I liked it. And she had her hair up in a bun, and she's preaching hard, and bobby pins are popping off her hair, and she's getting into the preaching. And I was offended, so I got up and left. But I came back the next Sunday, and her husband, the reason why he wasn't there preaching that Sunday, because he was getting a triple bypass surgery. And then the following Sunday, he shows up. And the doctor told him, you know, you need to lay in bed till you heal. That man wanted to preach, and he preached from the pulpit till his white shirt got a little stain of blood. You can see he was, and I'm looking at this man preaching, and I'm like, man, I want what he got. I want that in my life, that dedication, that desire. And the rest is history. 30 plus years later, I'm still serving God. I had ups and downs, you know, we all have our struggles with God, but as long as we keep running to him, we'll overcome our weakness because he becomes our strength. So, but when I saw you, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go over there and introduce myself. And I can tell you was a little bit standoffish because you were surrounded by so many different white folks. But you came back the next Sunday. And I knew that your soul has to feel like I made it home. Did you feel that way?
I did, man. I felt like I was in the right place. And I mean, I was purposely trying not to speak about things or my issues with Berto because I was like, no, this need to be real. Like, I want to know if he just talking to the preacher about me, man. Like I got a friend I met, and I would come in and he would just be talking, man, about stuff that I'm just going through, and it was just clicking every time, man. And you had got me to come up and pray, man. It was just an experience I've never had, and y'all was talking about speaking in tongues and how to be baby talk. I thought I was possessed, man, because it just didn't seem right. Like I've experienced it, but it was uncontrollable. When I experienced it with you, it was, I don't know, y'all like walked me through it. It was by myself before, and this time it just was like real quiet, and I could kind of hear it, but it was hard for me to repeat what I was hearing, and it was just a real experience that I've never had before, especially asking for. I've been praying for a very long time, like,
For a
man, I need
church
somebody to
family.
talk to. I need a church. I'm have a church, and I got it. So it was just it was an amazing experience, man.
If anybody's interested of what kind of church we're going to, it's called New Hope Apostolic Church in 40180 Parsons Avenue in LaGrange, Ohio. When I was first invited to come to that church, it was like, oh yeah, it's in LaGrange, Ohio, and I'm like, LaGrange, Ohio. Where is LaGrange, Ohio? But now I'm going there for 12 years, and at the time I lived far from that church, and we always had a saying, a church alive is worth the drive. And that's right, it's worth the drive to come there. And I'm glad that you're part of the family, because our goal is to help people understand the real God. I don't want people to serve God because, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
No, I want you to serve God because you had your own personal experience. And then I remember when you got baptized, and you got baptized in the name of Jesus Christ for the remission of your sins. And I was worried. I was like, man, I hope he doesn't take this baptism and think that that's all he needs. And then you disappeared.
I was it got serious, man. Like it's like the deeper I got, the more things came up that questioned everything, and my home life was going against everything I was doing. I was being called a goody two shoes, or
Who,
what is
you?
this, you holy roly, yeah, you know what I mean. And I don't know, I was just by myself at home too. I couldn't get my kids to come. Their mom didn't want to come. They wanted to go to their own church. Then they went and then stopped going, so they wasn't going. It was just me, and I had a friend that I grew up with. I started to tell you about him before, where we had a dream. He was in that dream, and then we did it the next day, and his cousin showed up. We talked to him, and he showed up in that dream like we in the clouds, like we superheroes. Like, I mean, it sounds crazy, but it was real, because we woke up the next day and spoke to each other about it.
You both had the same dream.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, it had to be like astral projection or something, man. 'Cause
Wow.
we was just in the clouds talking and hanging out, and just flying around everywhere. But the one of the friends that was in that dream came around, and he's like, what do you call it? Like lost Israelite. They be on the street.
Oh, the
Preaching.
the Black Hebrews. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hebrew
And,
Nation or something like that.
Yeah. And I was hanging out with him, talking to him about stuff, and he was saying like, man, you're not supposed to do that, and giving 10% to the church, giving your money to the church is a sham and all this stuff. And I was having issues with what to call them, you know what I mean? And I called you because I was having experiences, man. Like spirits was coming to me, and I was telling you how they was fighting me, and I would think about somebody that wronged me, and they was fighting me with the image of that person, like, and I was just going through a lot of different stuff, man, and it kind of pulled me back. I don't know if it was because I was being confused, or if I was just scared and I didn't really know how to handle all of it. But that's what happened. Like, I was going through so many different things spiritually that it just kind of pulled me back. And I think it was just, the negative energy, the devil trying to pull me away, because I was getting closer to God. I actually got to hear his voice and everything. Like, that's why it kind of bothers me. Like, dang, man, I let myself go so far backwards, being confused and hearing different things. I should have just shut it out better. But it was like I said, my first experience. I've never had a family, a church family, and I've never talked to God with other people like that. It's just always been my experience. And once I was getting into the church, it's like things was popping up. I had my friend popped up and was talking about I'm not supposed to be doing this at home. They didn't want to come to church with me, and they was calling me a goody two-shoes and worried about color. And I don't know. It was everything was just bothering me, and that's what really happened. But it got worse once I stopped. You know what I mean?
I remember you calling me, and I told you, I said, you need to come back.
Yeah.
You need to come back and let God work things out. And lo and behold, you're back.
Yeah.
And I understand about, excuse me, about hearing God's voice. Because I remember at our father's house, the church I was going to, I was in charge of the van ministry. I would go pick up people from the streets and bring them to church. And there was this one day I picked up everybody, and I just drove to church, got in, put the keys down, sat down, started taking notes. And I hear a voice telling me, you forgot somebody. And I looked over, at the time, I looked over to my wife, excuse me, and I asked her, I said, did you say something? She's like, no, I didn't say anything. Excuse me. And start taking notes again. I hear the voice, you forgot somebody. And I looked over, I said, are you sure you didn't say nothing? She goes, I didn't say nothing. So I took notes again and said, the voice said, her blood shall be upon your hands. I immediately grabbed the keys of my personal car. Excuse me. And I got into the car, drove up to the corner, and I saw her getting ready to get into the house. I get out the car in tears. Her name was Sister Swayze. I said, Sister Swayze, I'm sorry. I drove. Can you please forgive me? Come to church. And she's like, I saw you drive right by me. You didn't even wave or you didn't even stop. And I said, well, I'm bringing my personal car. Convince her to come to church. Take her into church. She's heading down to her regular pew. The pastor stops preaching and looks at her and says, Sister Swayze, has anybody in this church offended you? And she said, well, I forgave him. Talking about me. And he goes, did I do anything? And she's like, no, Pastor, you go on and continue your preaching. And she sat down. And then after church service, we all, go to the altar and do altar call. I'm playing the drums. Next thing you know it, there's a commotion going on in the vestibule in the back by the coats. And there was a doctor doing CPR on this little old lady. We get over there, call 911. Come to find out she had an aneurysm, and she died before she hit the ground. Brother, if I would have not paid attention to that voice, that woman would have died at her house with anger in her heart towards me. And I understood that her blood was going to be upon my hand. And if I would have not listened to that voice, where would I have been today? Would I still be serving God, or would that be haunting me? Yeah. Well, I thank God that I heard his voice and I did what I needed to do, because I believe that when she forgave me, then it was time for her to go home. She was a very elderly lady, but I understand hearing God's voice. And once you hear that voice, you better answer that call.
Man, there's no doubt in them. I'm telling you, man, like it's just crazy. Like, that's why I just really want to get back to him. I want to be able to hear him on a consistent basis. And, I want my kids to have that experience and be close to him. So it's just really, it's no turning back. You know what I mean? It's just, you feel sometimes like you don't feel it. You know what I mean? And that's when they say you got to keep praying. That's when he's there the most, is when you're not feeling things or you feel like you can't sense them. And just losing him is something I just don't want, man, because I know he's there. You know what I mean? Like how a lot of people pray. They're like, oh, God ain't real. How you know he real? Like, but when you actually have that experience, just can't nobody say nothing to take that away from you. You know what I mean?
The devil himself can't take it away. The amazing thing is about when I finally became a Christian and, growing up in a Catholic environment, I tell my mom, and my mom gets so mad at me, and she actually slapped me in the face. And I was so angry, and my pastor told me, you want to win your mother? Live it in front of her. So if you want to win your family, live it in front of them. Let them see the change that God really did in your life. And you become the preaching vessel without a voice. your action begins to preach to them, and you become that living Bible to them.
Yeah.
They have no choice but to say, man, God, it's got to be real, man, because look at Mike, he's different. Look at my dad, he's different. You know, and that's a tool that you can use throughout your life, is expressing your love for Jesus in your actions. And as long as you keep doing that, Mike, you'll be fine. You'll have strangers come up to you and say, hey, are you a believer? Oh, yeah, why? You ask. I can see it in your action. You know, Jesus said they will know you, that you are mine by your love. And sharing that love with everybody else, basically sharing your testimony with everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, because the man that you are today is not the man that was 5 years ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy because I found myself going around asking people was something wrong, people that I didn't really deal with, and I was praying for them, like at work, and like this one particular person, she was going through something, and I was like, man, you all right, man? I just feel this energy from you, whatever, and I just asked her, do you want me to pray? I prayed for her right there, and there was a couple other people there, but they was like, wow, man, like that's exactly what she dealing with right now. Like I didn't know, you know what I mean? Like, but it just came out. And some people denied it though, like, but I mean, because it was people that I just really didn't deal with. But I don't know if God was just saying if I would do that for him or just do that, go up to somebody that I don't deal with, that could be an enemy, and ask if they want me to pray for them, you know. But that's something I would never do. Like I would never approach an enemy or somebody who shot up my house talking about, you want me to pray for you, you know. So
See, but that's what makes Christians, is that love for your enemies. You express that no matter what. And you know what's awesome about being in a church with different colors is that in the body of Christ, there is no color. Mm-hmm. There's only one color that matters, and it's the color of red, his blood. His blood makes us brothers.
yeah,
You know, and people that has so much hatred in their heart that racism seeps out of them no matter what culture they come from. But once you've tasted his love, his mercy, his grace, you have no choice but to love. You know, I love you, and I will always express that, and I will do everything I can to make sure that you make it home. And if I can help you with your family in prayer or in actions, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help each other.
yeah,
You know, I want everybody to understand that, you know, if you can like and share this video and spread the gospel that way, because we're going to continue talking about the testimonies of ordinary people and let people understand that God is real. If you just reach out and taste as how good he is, you will understand. Everyone, thank you for watching the Persuaded Podcast. I'm your host, Ramon, and I'll see you at the next one. Remember, grace is not liberty to sin, but liberty from sin. See you at the next one.